welcome to Intersect Radio, where music, faith, and life converge. With your host, Aaron the A-Train Smith.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to Intersect Radio. It's the first show of a brand new year. Happy 2020 to everybody. Who said we had to start over? That's a good question. Why do we have New Year's? Anyway, that's just some thinking I've been doing.
This is too philosophical.
Yeah. But anyway, it is 2020, and we're glad to be here, glad to be back, thankful for all of the many blessings. And I'm really grateful to have my friend, Mr. Tim Nicholson, here today. Thank you for coming, Tim. Thank you for showing up and driving down the driveway as you were instructed. And
yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the coffee. This is great. This is fun.
Yeah, we're having coffee and some chocolates I got for Christmas. Chocolates.
2020 is looking good right now. So
yeah.
I'm happy.
7 days in.
Yeah. So far, so good.
Yeah, well, let me tell you all a little about Mr. Nicholson here. He holds certain qualifications from Armstrong University and the Berklee College of Music. He has also pursued studies at Debrecen.
There you go. You got it.
Conservatory in Debrecen, Hungary. I knew I was going to flub it.
You got it twice.
And Royal Holloway in London, England. That's a conservatory as well?
It's part of the University of London, so it's not a conservatory, but they have a strong music department. So,
okay,
yeah.
Okay. I have more questions about that. He has served on faculty at Community Music School in Philadelphia, PA, Heritage Christian Academy in Lexington, South Carolina, and Ben Lippen High School in Columbia, South Carolina. He has served at a number of churches, including the Hunter Army Chapel in Savannah, Georgia, Trinity Reformed Baptist in Joppa, Maryland.
Joppa. I think it's Joppa.
Joppa.
Yeah, there you go. Baltimore.
Boy, Debrecen and Joppa. Lexington Presbyterian Church in Lexington, South Carolina. Christ Presbyterian Church here in Nashville, where I met him.
Yeah. And
is currently serving at Covenant Presbyterian Church here in Nashville as a liturgist and the director of music. He has served in many other roles over the years, including whitewater guide, textbook author, choral director and conductor, and freelance designer. He also enjoys reading. His favorite mag is The Atlantic. His favorite band appears to be Coldplay, according to his bio.
Are you going to tease me about that? I think you already are.
He's into jazz, man. He's cool, man. He's into jazz.
In fact, I just ordered that jazz harmony book that you have on your music stand.
Oh, you did?
So, I got to check it out.
He likes Major League Baseball. Which team in particular?
Well, so this is controversial. So the Atlanta Braves. But when I became a Braves fan, it was during the Braves' glory days, when they won the division every year.
Yeah.
Like and then they got real bad for a while. So I had to pick an AL team. So Braves NL, Yankees AL, which...
Yankees!
Yeah, so there you go. Are you a Yankees fan?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. I get accosted for it. It's all right.
We're probably the last two baseball fans in the country. Nobody pays attention to baseball anymore.
Well, right? I only really get into it during the playoffs.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not the Saturday afternoon guy.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's fair. I used to do that with my dad, but listen to it on the radio.
Oh man, that's okay. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Listening to all the wild crickets and cicadas during the summertime.
That's back in North Carolina?
Yeah.
Man, that sounds perfect.
Yeah. You enjoy reading, I see, and international travel, and any chance to be outdoors.
That's right. Except right now we're not outside, but that's okay.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful day out in the neighborhood.
Man, this weather is awesome.
I'm telling you. Who knew? It keeps going back and forth, Well, I'm glad you are here with us, Tim.
I'm glad to be here.
We've been trying to get this together for some time now, but finally we're here, and I'm looking forward to talking about all these things you've done, man. Let's start at when you were born, where you were born, and your upbringing, and all that sort of stuff.
All the way back to the beginning. Yeah. So my dad is a Presbyterian pastor, and I was born in Alabama, of all places.
What part of Alabama?
Montgomery, Alabama.
Oh.
So I was born there. We were there for a few years, and then my dad changed jobs, still a pastor, but we moved to San Francisco, California. So pretty similar to Montgomery, Alabama. Just kidding.
In what way?
Yeah.
The ocean?
No, maybe, yeah. Both states have coasts. Yeah. So we were in San Francisco for a little bit. Anyways, we ended up bouncing around. So we were in San Francisco, and then we were in rural Nevada in a town of about 4,000 people for a while.
Was he like going from church to church?
Yeah.
Was this sort of thing?
Yeah. He was just he would just kind of follow the opportunities. And so we were in Alabama and then California and Nevada, and then landed in Savannah, Georgia, eventually, where I did high school and college.
Okay.
So, grew up the son of a pastor, 3 siblings, so big-ish family, and had a lot of fun. I kind of feel like an East Coast kid with a West Coast heart, if that makes any sense. Like, I love being out west.
Yeah.
But both my parents are from New England. All my relatives, that's probably part of the Yankees thing, is New England roots. And so there's this allegiance to the East Coast, but love being out west. So anyways, I think living on both coasts growing up, I feel a little torn. Midwest I can do without. I'm not much for the Midwest, but I'll take East Coast or West Coast. So anyways, you have a similar geographical story, right?
Similar. Yeah, similar. I can relate to having a West Coast heart.
Yeah. I don't even know what that means. It just I thought it sounded cool in the moment. So, anyways,
it was very cool.
Okay, all right.
And I'm going to keep that.
Okay,
good.
Good.
And use it.
Yeah, great. You can reference me.
Yeah, it was great. Because man, when I'm out west, I'm my best. No, it's just a different feeling. It's just a different vibe.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Different people, wide open spaces. Absolutely.
Yeah. The last time I was out there, I was up in Seattle and Washington State area. Man, I didn't want to come home. I wanted to send my wife a plane ticket.
I hear you, man. I love the Pacific Northwest. So, anyways, yeah. So my upbringing was all over the country, and really, I mean, got into music because my mom made me take piano lessons, right? Probably the same reason a lot of people start. Started at 6.
Okay.
So
private lessons?
Private lessons at 6. And then dropped out a couple points. We sold our piano at one point. And then at another point, I was convinced I was supposed to play tennis or baseball or something cool, not piano. And that didn't work out so well for me. It kind of brought me back to piano. And it was like, hey, at least I'm a little bit good at this thing. And then by the time college came around, I sort of didn't know what else to study. So piano it was.
Just that simple, huh?
I mean, it really was. That sounds crazy, but I didn't even think about it that much. That made sense.
Yeah. So how many years did you study piano?
So
like from 6 years old until now?
Yeah, from 6 until now. So that's 30 years.
That's cool.
If you do the math, you could figure out how old I am, but I'll give you a second to figure that out.
So,
okay.
All right. All right. So you went to college in South Carolina as well?
I went to college in Savannah, in Georgia, yeah.
In Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah. So started college, and a couple of the music professors came over to our house and said, hey, if Tim studies piano, we'll give him this much in scholarship money. And I was like 17. And so it was like, sure. Well,
so you must have had quite a reputation in Savannah. As a pianist.
Savannah's not that big of a town. So it may have been a big fish, small pond kind of thing.
How did the big fish get in the small pond?
Through San Francisco.
Oh, yeah?
No, I was fortunate to have some great piano instructors in Savannah. And yeah, as far as once I got to college age, it's kind of crazy, but I didn't look at any other schools. It just wasn't. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a big priority. It wasn't really on my radar.
Going to school?
Well, I knew I was going to go to college, or I knew I wanted to, but I didn't do a whole lot of work. And then the local university came and made my job easy, and I already knew some of the music students and some of the music professors.
Yeah. So were you playing out or playing like really legit stuff, or what? How did people find out about you?
I just knew people. Okay. just knew some people, and I was playing. I was playing in a few places in town. Church music has been kind of a constant for me over a long period as well. Yeah. And I had gotten connected to a couple churches and was leading some things, and that got me connected to a lot of musicians around town. And so that probably helped develop some of the relationships. But it was probably more about knowing those folks than.
Cool.
I don't play stuff as legit as you play. So when you ask me if I play legit stuff, like the imposter syndrome just sets in. But
what would you call legit stuff?
Well, I was going to ask you that same question. What would you call legit stuff? You said it first, so.
Well, I was thinking more of the big band or movie theme music sort of thing, solo piano, that sort of, where you got to wear a suit and tie or tuxedo, chandelier, and people, and people know about you because of that. You're the guy in town that plays all the functions. You want it done right, you call Tim.
Yeah.
So, guys, I have a lot of friends, but not one of them have ever come to my house and offered me a college scholarship.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that you must have been like, wherever you were playing, you had a rep of sorts.
Yes, that's probably true. I was, I've never thought about this. I'm gonna have to. I just thought everyone had someone come over and offer them a scholarship. At some point. Yeah, right. I didn't think there was anything weird about that. So I'm gonna have to think about that. But yeah, I was doing playing. If you're a musician, you want to play, right? And you just say yes. So whatever comes, you just kind of say yes, and you do it. And sometimes you say yes to something
that you wish you hadn't said yes to.
Well, that too. That maybe that especially. But you just say yes to something, and then you have to go and figure out how to do this thing you said yes to. Yeah. I was like, hey, can you play this thing? You're like, yeah, of course. And then you got to go home and figure out whatever that thing is.
I had one of those recently.
Yeah, that still happens all the time, right? Yeah. What was that for you recently?
A friend asked me to play with a big band doing the Duke Ellington Nutcracker Suite.
Oh, wow.
Billy Strayhorn's arrangements.
Okay. And you said you had done it a dozen times before?
He never asked me. I said, sure, man, let's do it. And so I kept bugging him for the music, Hurry up and get me the music, And once he did, but, prior to that, thanks to YouTube, I just went on YouTube, searched it, found the complete album, and I started practicing like that.
Wow.
Then once I got the charts, I started practicing with both, the charts and
So how long did it take you to prep for that?
Right up to the time of performance.
Okay. That's a good answer. It's a good answer. And that was what? 72 hours. Yeah, more than that.
I had a couple of weeks, actually.
Okay.
Because, I wanted to really get into it, the nuances of it. Yeah. Because when you hear it the first time, you just hear the top layer. Yeah. You hear the melody and you hear some horn punches and that sort of thing, a fiddle here and there. But then you keep listening to it and you hear down deep on what the other guys are doing that are not doing the big hits and stuff. The thing that's really carrying the music and it's making it do its thing. Yeah. And so you get into that. I just like that.
No, that's awesome. But how big does a band have to be a big band?
back in the day, 5 pieces.
Okay. And then today, that would be 5 pieces. Wow.
Because we were thinking about how to divide the money.
Okay, that's fair. That's a good answer.
But this was a 17-piece band.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. That is big.
It was a good band.
At what point does that become an orchestra?
When you add strings.
When you add strings. Okay, all right. Okay. Even if it's like a jazz orchestra. I don't know. That's probably right.
When you add strings, it becomes an orchestra.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. We should look that up. Anyway, it was really good. All the players were great.
Yeah.
It was a mixture of professionals and students at Austin P University.
Oh, cool.
Over in Clarksville.
Yeah, cool.
So, man, these guys were bad. And I was so glad that I was still prepping right up to the time I sat down at the throne.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Man. It was great. It was great. I had a great time.
Man.
Great performances.
That sounds awesome. And when was that? That was recently, right?
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks, maybe 3 before Christmas.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. It was good. So, after college, where did the muse take you?
Yeah, so I got 3 years through college, and my school gave me a cash scholarship. So I went overseas and studied piano for a year in Hungary, where I did some choral conducting, and just kind of studied music at the Debrecen Conservatory. I had a great year there, and wasn't ready to come home. And honestly, I was a little.
You went Hungary for home?
That's clever. That's good. That's good. I wasn't quite ready to come home, so I ended up staying with some friends in France for a while, and then moved to London and was there for the better part of a year. And didn't do much music in London. I actually worked mostly as a Christmas ornament salesman in Harrods for most of a year.
Wow!
I bet I'm your only friend that's done that. If I'm still your friend after that.
Yeah, you're still my friend now. I went to Harrods once.
What was your experience?
It was unreal.
What'd you buy?
Nothing.
Oh, not even a Christmas ornament.
I was on a very low budget tour.
That's fair.
Low budget. You know, we were going around seeing all the free things. You know, They let us walk through Harrods. But, you know, what blew me away, this is like the 70s.
Yeah.
And I go in there, and there's a Rolls Royce in there, you know?
Yeah.
On display. I'm going like, what is this?
No, it was really fun being there. I mean, they had a spot where you could buy jets, and then they had a little real estate section that had like some featured islands you could buy. So you could buy both your island and your jet to get to your island in Harrods when I was there, which was... it's just unlike any other place.
Yeah.
It's a unique store. So
what year were you there?
Man, that was 05, 06, somewhere in there. And so I did that, came back to the States.
Wait. How'd you get that job? Did you just answer an ad in Melody Maker or something?
Oh man, that's a great question. How did I get that job? Well, it was funny because I didn't want that job. So I moved to London on a whim, right? There was a program where I could get a work permit for so long. And so I applied for the work permit, got it, and moved to London with like $20 in my pocket, which I spent most of getting a haircut because I hadn't cut my hair in like a year. So then I was probably down to like $8, you know. And was applying to jobs. And there was this job at a hotel in Kensington. And basically, it was like being a valet. I was going to park cars, and I sat down for part of the interview, and they asked me how many Ferraris I had driven, and and I told them none. And then they said, "Well, would you be comfortable parking Ferraris?" And I really tried to keep it cool and just be like, "Yeah, of course, of course." And I think they saw right through me, and I didn't get the job. I was so mad about it. So then I just started applying to stuff, and applied to Harrods, and I think it was my first time doing sales, which was actually a great experience.
In what department?
Well, so I worked in luggage, I worked in dishes, We should talk. We should go check out your dishes. We can talk through that. And then I spent most of my time in their Christmas department, which was fun, man. I mean, department store life is great. But actually, I mean, the best part of that job for me was, I worked in a department with about 40 people, and I think we were from like 25 different countries. I mean, it was just the most diversity I'd ever been exposed to. All these different languages, different backgrounds, and for the most part, we all got along. It was a ton of fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it can be done.
It can be done. Yeah, it can be done.
Dang. That's good to know. Were you, so you didn't play any music in London?
I played a little bit, but not seriously. So after being in a U.S. school and then going over to Europe and studying there, I was a little burned out. I was just a little worn out. And I was studying piano with students that had been preparing for this since they were 3 years old, at a pretty serious level. It just wore me out in a good way. So I think it was kind of a year of rest after that. And I was involved musically. I saw a lot of good music when I was in London.
Oh yeah,
but didn't do a whole lot of playing. So yeah.
What's the? Did you ever go to Ronnie Scott's while you were there?
Yeah, I made it to Ronnie Scott's once. I can't remember who was playing when I was there. That's really embarrassing. But once there was a place called the 606 that was close to where I lived, and I would go to the 606 a lot, and they had great jazz. That was kind of my spot. I couldn't afford Ronnie Scott's all the time, but I could afford the 606.
Ronnie Scott's is expensive.
It is expensive, yeah, but it's great.
Oh, I went once, and the thing about Ronnie's, other than how much it costs to get in, I think the tube stopped before the last show was over.
Oh, okay.
So, being a visitor, I didn't know all the ins and outs of buses to catch and all that sort of thing. So I had to walk back to the hotel. And it was, I knew the way back because we had been there for a few days, and I kind of learned my way around. And, man, it was like being in an Alfred Hitchcock movie because it was foggy.
So?
It was foggy.
Yeah.
And there was nobody on the street but me.
Yeah.
And I felt a little uncomfortable. Then at one point, somebody came out of their apartment and had just happened to be going in the same direction as I was and followed, I quote unquote followed behind me for like 8 yards back,
wow.
And I got a little suspicious about that. But then they got to this point and they went left, I went right, and I don't know.
And it all ended well, yeah.
I was just spooked out there a little
That's fair.
bit. But it's good.
It definitely depends on where you are, but man, London is such a special city. Probably still my favorite spot in the world.
I'd have to agree with you.
The variety of people and the food and the history and the culture and the music, and it's just
the Queen
and the Queen, I guess. Yeah, It's just a wonderful place.
Yeah, it's great, man. I love the accent too. Hearing the British talk.
Yeah.
That's great. So I usually ask people about their conversion to Christ because a lot of people I've had on the show became believers somewhere later on in life.
Yeah.
And so they had some experience experiences that I was pretty surprised that they shared, know. But you grew up in the church.
I did, yeah.
Was there ever any moment of doubt or I'm just doing this for mom and dad? Or
I would say absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I grew up as a pastor's kid and knew a lot of the right answers and could get the right answers out before anybody else in Sunday school. I was that kid that I guess everybody else hated. I don't know. But I would say, my conversion was right around 10 years old when there was something that clicked, and there was a heart change then. But the struggle for me was I didn't really own it at that point, and so there wasn't much growth. And that took a long time. I think that took getting out of my parents' house, making some of my own choices. And another thing that did it for me is I worked for a couple of years in college as a contracted musician to the Department of Defense, which meant so I wasn't in the Army, but I spent a lot of time in an Army chapel. And so we would do weddings and memorial services and the Sunday services. And so when I was there were 5 or 6 chaplains at a time, and they were all different denominations. So we would have an Episcopal chaplain and a Presbyterian chaplain and a Baptist chaplain and a Methodist chaplain and a Pentecostal chaplain, and they would rotate. And so I'm this musician, and if we have a Baptist service one week, it's going to take 5 or 6 more weeks before the Baptist guy comes back up. And then it's like 5 other churches happen in the meantime. Mm-hmm. And it was a great experience for me just to say, hey, this whole Christianity thing is a whole lot bigger than I realized. So I think during that time in college, there were a lot of questions. And I think I realized I haven't embraced this thing as my own as much as I think I've been given. And then in Europe, it was fascinating because the town I lived in Hungary, I think Debrecen is probably 100,000 people or so. It's probably bigger than that now. But it's not. I mean, it's a city. Mm-hmm. But there was one English-speaking church, and so I had one choice. I went to a Calvary Chapel, loved it, but that was my only option.
Oh, it's a Calvary Chapel.
Yeah, it was a Calvary Chapel.
Was the pastor American or?
Yeah, so there's so there's an American guy from Colorado that came over and started this church in Hungary.
You remember his name?
His first name was Nick. I think it was Nick Cady. And if Nick listens to this, I'm sorry if I got your last name wrong, but I believe it was Nick Cady from Colorado. And I believe he's back in Colorado now. He's pastor of another Calvary Chapel there. Mm-hmm. But I would say somewhere along that time, especially in Hungary, and then even more so when I moved to London and then joined up with an Anglican church, I think through those experiences, there was some growth that started to happen. Presbyterians would call it sanctification, but just there's and really I think it was God finding me in those places and drawing me closer. So I would say conversion experience for me was 10, but it took more than 10 years before I think I really started to grow into that. Does that make sense? Does that sound good? Yeah.
I mean, I would say that you're still growing into it.
Absolutely.
As we all are still growing into it,
Yeah.
Because, man, I'm still surprised at the things I learned, about God and the things I learned about myself through that.
Yeah.
I wish I had learned like 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But, it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
So, well, that's good. You should put that part about the Army thing in your resume.
I probably should.
That's pretty cool.
It was
not too many people have that sort of experience.
It was a great experience for me. So,
yeah. That's great. So, after your time in England, do you come back to the States?
Yeah, I came back to the States, and at that point, so I had finished studies in music. I had worked outside of music for a while. wasn't sure where things were going next. So worked a variety of jobs from being a human resources consultant to being a whitewater guide. I was an outdoor guide on a dude ranch for a summer. Worked for the Census Bureau for a while. I was kind of all over the place for a few years.
So how did you become a whitewater rafting guy?
Yeah, so I grew up doing outdoor stuff. I'm an Eagle Scout, Grew up loving all that stuff.
You should put that in your resume too.
Do you do resume coaching or career coaching? Maybe that'd be.
I might start.
You might be my guy for that. So, anyways, I had taken a job in Connecticut working in human resources, and part of me loved it, and part of me was dying inside a little bit doing this job. Loved the people I worked with. The work was fine, but it just wasn't. Part of it wasn't a fit. And I talked to a friend on the phone who talked to me about one of his friends that had taken a graduate school exam and then was going back. And so the scores were good for 5 years. So he took this exam, did really well, but then thought, man, I've got 5 years to play with until these scores expire, so I'm going to go enjoy 5 years. And he was going back and forth between working at surf schools in California and dude ranches in Colorado. And so I'm sitting here in Connecticut in the winter filing resumes, doing human resources stuff, and just thought, you know what, I need to switch this. So anyways, 3 weeks later, I had a job offer for a dude ranch in Idaho. And in May, I drove out and worked at Red Horse Mountain Ranch in Idaho as an outdoor guide, had a great time. And then, gosh, I think it was the following summer, went back out and worked for Row Adventures as a whitewater guide. In Idaho as well, through some kind of connections and relationships I'd had out there, and had a great time. If that was sort of a legitimate career, I would probably still be out there doing
and where
that.
Was that?
So, it was in Idaho. So I was in Harrison, Idaho, right outside of Coeur d'Alene. And then I was, as a whitewater guide, I was on the Clearwater River, kind of right where the Lochsaw, Selway, and Clearwater rivers come together in Kuski, Idaho, which I think is maybe a town of 30 people. It's pretty small. Have you been there?
Nope.
Okay, all right. The Huckleberry Pie is outrageous.
Oh, it is?
In Kuski, Idaho. So if you find yourself there, there's a woman named Lorraine who makes Huckleberry Pies.
Lorraine.
And that's your mission.
That's my mission. Yeah. I'm on it, man.
Yeah.
I'm into pie.
Same.
Life of pie.
Who even needs cake?
So, when you were on that dude ranch, is that the time that bear was following you or a mountain lion?
How'd you know about that?
Because you were telling us about that. Over
hot
chicken.
Yeah, that's right. Hot chicken place closed, man.
Yeah.
What is your favorite hot chicken?
Pepper Fire.
It is Pepper Fire.
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I thought maybe it was Prince's.
Nah.
It is Pepper Fire.
You know what? I just found out the Prince's burnt down.
Yeah. I drove a friend there some time ago, and it was closed. And yeah. I found that out, too. The hard way.
I just found that out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I went, what?
Yeah.
The whole little shopping area burned down. Somebody's car ran into a building. That means we're going to
have to go to, like, Hattie B's, right?
Ew.
Come on, it's delicious.
I'm waiting for the new Prince's.
Okay.
It's going to be great. That's a little local stuff here, folks. You guys got to come to Nashville and get some hot chicken.
It's the spot for hot chicken.
You got to do it.
So, anyways, the answer to your question was the mountain lion story. No, that wasn't in Idaho. I was in college. I spent a summer as a backpacking guide in New Mexico. And
you should put that on your resume.
What's your hourly rate? Let's do this now. We'll just go ahead and sign the contract, lock this up. So I was a backpacking guide and did attempted this challenge where you put 40 pounds on your back and you're supposed to hike 40 miles in a day. And I got about 35 miles into it. The sun was down. And anyway, something started stalking me. And I never saw it, but when I stopped walking, this thing would stop walking. And then I would take a few steps, and it would take a few steps. And bears usually don't do that. That's kind of mountain lion behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a spot where there was an active mountain lion that week. And so, anyways, I stopped the 40-mile challenge, pulled out a sleeping bag, went to sleep. That was it. So that was
really?
that was the end of my 40-mile challenge.
Man, I would think that the possibility of a mountain lion being behind me would keep me going, and I wouldn't want to stop and go to sleep.
So here's the problem: is once you hike 40 miles, I wasn't used to hiking 40 miles in a day. That's a lot of miles. So I had pretty bad blood blisters on the back of my heels. My legs were sore. I think I had gone over 4 or 5 10,000-foot mountains. My knees were done. I don't have the best knees. Anyway, I was aching, so I'm sure I looked like I was dying to this mountain lion because I was probably limping. So and I just thought, man, if I keep going for a couple more miles, it's just going to take me out. I look like I'm going to die. So that's where I was at.
I'm hurting so bad.
Yeah.
If you're going to eat me, sir, just bring it. Come on.
Let's get it. Let's do this.
Get it. Do it. Get it over with.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's you've done quite a bit in your 36 years.
Good math over there. Look at that. Good memory, too.
That's great, man. So after all of this, your dude ranch work, your whitewater rafting, how did you settle back into the other things you've done, like working at churches and stuff like that? How did that all come full circle?
Yeah, it was a slow process, but I'd say the different places where I was living, God sort of slowly called me back into churches. So, when I was living in Connecticut, I didn't work for a church, but I got connected to a church where I became the music director's substitute. So he would go out of town and he would ask me to come in and conduct or play while he was out. And then after my first summer in Idaho, I was offered a church internship just outside of Baltimore in Joppa, Maryland. And essentially I was their music director for a year, and it was a church that was kind of in transition. And they said, hey, we want someone to come in and just try some things and see what kind of fits, kind of see who we are and what kind of music we should be doing, what kind of songs we should be singing.
Plant?
It was
Church plant?
It was an established church, but a church that had gone through a lot of change and was kind of going through a generational shift and had a lot of younger people and a lot of great musicians, and we're trying to figure out how to use the talent that they already had there. So I got involved with that church and did that for a year and realized at some point that maybe I have the gifting to actually try this. So I applied to some jobs, was offered a few church music positions, and took one in South Carolina. And so then I landed in South Carolina, where I was for 9 years. So it was a slow process. I mean, I was in South Carolina for 9 years, which was crazy. That wasn't really the plan. I was going to go and sort of try this thing on, and I wasn't sold that I was supposed to be a church musician at that point. In fact, I think that's kind of a constant thing. Sometimes I'm not sure I'm supposed to be a church musician, but I think we all wrestle with that thing, right? Like,
but you continue to be.
Yeah, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? But it was essentially maybe God has gifted me and made me to do this thing. I can see how there's certain skills I have and certain experiences I have that would lend themselves to this. So let's give it a try. And then that brought me to South Carolina, and I was I'm grateful to have been there for a long time, and I had a great 9-year season with the folks at Lexington Presbyterian there. So,
how old were you when you started there?
Oh man, I think I was 25.
Wow.
So yeah. They were crazy hiring a 25. Who hires a 25-year-old for a job like that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
They do, I suppose. That's pretty incredible. I don't know if I would have been that responsible at 25.
I don't know that I was either, but we gave it a shot. Yeah. What were you doing at 25?
25. Let's see. 25. I'm not sure. I think that's when I moved to Boston.
Okay. From North Carolina? Is that right?
No, from Marin County.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I had been out there in a band. The band broke up, and the leader of the band suggested I go to Boston to study with Alan Dawson.
Okay. And you did?
And I did.
Wow.
Because I respected his opinion. And after playing with him, it was something I was really interested in doing. So,
wow.
I didn't have any. I was single. I hadn't paid rent in like months because I was on the road
Yeah.
and stuff, so I had the means to go, and I had relatives in Boston who were more than happy to have me come and stay with them until I got it together,
Wow.
So off I went.
And how long were you in Boston?
2.5 years.
Okay.
Maybe 3. It snowed really bad there once.
I was just in Boston recently, and it gets cold up there. Yeah.
It was the Great Blizzard of 1979. And after that, I got a phone call from a guy out in San Francisco to come and form this band. And back in Boston, the snow was just melting.
Okay.
And I went, I'll be right there.
Sounds like a great moment. You weren't you were standing on a sidewalk and a car drove by and splashed a bunch of. Is that it?
Yeah,
that's
it.
That sounds poetic.
My drums got wet. Cases got wet. I got wet.
Oh wait, that actually happened. That actually happened. That's poetic.
Yeah. And I was like, "Yep, okay, I'll be right there."
That's amazing.
So, how did you come about doing worship and leading worship at Christ Pres with Russ?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I met a girl. That's how this always starts, right?
I met a girl.
Met a girl. We dated for a while. Got engaged. She has a career in Nashville, and I was in South Carolina, and we were kind of talking about, well, we should probably look at either South Carolina or Nashville, unless we're going to try the long distance marriage thing, which we decided not to try. The long distance dating was enough.
Is this while you're still at the church?
I was still working in South Carolina, and we were long distance until we got married, and decided we would move to Nashville, or she would stay in Nashville, and I would move to Nashville. And the funny thing was I wasn't going to do church music in Nashville. I was going to come here and had some other ideas about just trying some things and maybe taking a break, getting some rest. And then Russ Ramsey called and said, "Hey."
How did you know Russ?
I didn't know Russ. I had a few friends that knew Russ. And I shouldn't say that. We had coffee one time. Russ and I had coffee once. And he called and said, "Hey, I'm starting this new site, doing this thing. You want to come and do it with me? I think it's going to be fun." And Russ is great,
Yeah.
So hopped in and we started this new Christ Pres site in Cool Springs. So yeah. How long have you known Russ?
Since the 90s.
It's a long time ago.
He was just a little kid. No, he was very young at the time. And it was one of those things where you see somebody almost all the time, almost every day, but not quite every day, but you see him all the time, and then all of a sudden you don't see him anymore.
Was that because he was stalking you? Or?
No. We were both around Charlie Peacock a lot.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then people leave, do things, and they don't tell you they're leaving. They don't tell you, hey, I'm going to do such and such. They just go and do it,
Yeah.
And then 15 years later or so, it's like, you look familiar.
Wow.
That's
wild.
Yeah, Russ. Yeah. And it just comes flooding back.
Wow.
So that was the sort of thing.
I love that.
Relationships are like that.
Yeah, love that. So yeah, I had a great time, and that's where we met, is playing music at Christ Pres, and yeah.
Now tell me about your new digs.
Yeah, so about 6 months ago, I started working for Covenant Presbyterian in Nashville, and I'm the director of music there, and it's we're kind of figuring things out. So I'm only, I think it takes a year into a new job before you really figure it out. So I've got it maybe halfway figured out at best, because I'm only 6 months in. But there's a great staff team. I think I'm going to get this wrong, but I think the church is around 25 years old. They built a gorgeous sanctuary about 10 years ago. It's basically a Gothic cathedral, and they put a Fisk organ inside, which is a big deal pipe organ. They've got a great choir, great organist on staff. They run a music school out of their music ministry there. So we have a little music conservatory with 10 faculty members.
What sort of things are taught there?
Whatever you want. Violin, piano, voice, euphonium, ukulele. What would you like to study, Aaron?
Theory.
We do a little bit of theory, but let me see if I can tailor our offerings for the fall, and we'll get back in touch. Okay. So, all right.
You know where I live.
Yeah, totally. Except anyways. So that's where I am now, kind of settling in, getting to know the staff, dreaming a little bit about the future. January is a good time to do that. So looking at systems, trying to build new systems.
It's that time thing again,
It is. Yeah.
I guess that was good, having a new beginning, fresh start. I lang syne and that.
Yeah, I think January is a good time just to, dream some new dreams, imagine some new things, and in my role now, I mean, I'm a church musician, but there's a lot of management. I oversee like 16 people in my department, and so you have to have systems for that, and so anyway, this is a good time of year for me to think about organizational structures and all that kind of dorky management
So what do you have to do? What do you do?
Yeah, I conduct
during the week.
I conduct choir. I do some liturgy planning, some music planning, some arranging. We hire professional musicians to come in, which is fun in Nashville. We had a singer-songwriter named Jeremy Casello this last week.
Jeremy, yeah.
Yeah, and a cellist named Paul Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
You know Paul? So I had them both in this last week, and I played with them, and it's just a ton of fun. So some of it's dreaming, that kind of stuff. Some of it's leading a choir, and then trying to bring unity kind of to this whole thing. So this church hasn't had a director of music for a couple of years. They had one, and they've had a couple interims, and so just trying to make sense, provide leadership to the whole thing, and I'm still kind of figuring out what my job is.
So you work 6 days a week?
I try to keep it to 5 days a week, but sometimes it's 6 days a week. Yeah, I try to take Fridays and Saturdays off. So, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah, most people who work in church take Monday off.
Is that how I'm supposed to be doing this?
I don't know.
So you do resume writing. Do you also do like life coaching? Is that what I'm hearing? Maybe.
Well, we'll talk after the show.
All right. Now I need to take Mondays off. All right.
So, what are some of the things you're looking at possibly for the future? Like playing down on Broadway at one of the honky tonks?
If you'll play with me, I'll do it. That'd be great.
I played down there once.
Really? Tell me about that.
I've been here since 1996.
And you know what? I've only been in Nashville for 18 months, so that was probably before I got here, right?
Yeah.
So you're due. It's time for you to do this again.
No.
You didn't even think about that.
I got down there, and the guy that hired me said, yeah, just come on down, bring the sticks, everything's here if you want to bring your cymbals or a snare drum, foot pedal maybe. So I did, and I got there, and somebody had taken the clutch off the hi-hat stand.
Okay.
So all night long, I didn't bring a clutch. All night long, the hi-hats are like, even during the ballads. So I think that had something to do with.
So you weren't invited back. That's what happened. I see what happened. No, that's fascinating.
Yeah. The clutch got me, man.
That is funny.
That clutch killed me.
No, I don't know. If you'll play with me, I'll go down and play on Broadway.
Well,
we'll see about that.
Yeah, it's not that easy. You got to know all the tunes, man.
Yeah, that's fair.
I know none of them.
That's fair. No, I mean, I think where I'm at now, I'm working for a church in Nashville. I think it's kind of asking the question, like, how do we serve the city of Nashville with what we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
And that includes Sunday services, but kind of holistically, how do we love the city that we're in? with the sort of concerts that we offer, with the people we hire, the music that we choose. And it's, the fun part of being in Nashville is there's so many professional musicians. And so from singer-songwriters to session musicians to symphony musicians, there's everything. And so also trying to engage that community and have people in and develop relationships and build bridges. And we are just now kind of thinking through a lot of that stuff there. So, as I look at the next year, we're doing a kind of a little concert series in the spring with the Nashville Philharmonic that will come and play a concert, and then a couple professional choirs that will come and do concerts. And then as we get to summer and fall, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. So we're sorting through all that. So I actually have here's the life planning nerd part in me. I'm actually taking 2.5 days next week, and I'll go away and camp out with a friend for 2.5 days, and we'll mostly be in silence, except for dinners. We'll probably talk to each other at dinner. And we will read and write and plan for the year. And I've kind of become a life planner. So we kind of, it's more than an annual plan. It's more of like a 5-year plan. I can't think more than 5 years ahead of time, or even dream more than 5 years ahead of time.
I'm good, like 5 minutes.
I know, and even like 5 days. That's hard for me to keep track of. But just to have a little bit of dedicated space to kind of think about current reality, where things are now, and dream a little bit for the future. So I'll be doing some of that next week. So I've got some ideas, but I think as I come into next week, I'll have a chance to kind of write those down and think through that a little bit more.
You guys going to have a cabin?
We are going to have a cabin, yeah. So we'll be, it's actually somebody else's cabin that owns a farm in Franklin, Tennessee. And we'll go down. I think it's like a Civil War era cabin. So we'll go and we'll have a bonfire the whole time, sit by the fire, sleep in the cabin. It'll be fun. So you should come out. You should come out and sit in silence with us. We'll cook you a steak for dinner. Do you camp?
In silence.
In silence. Well, if you come, we'll talk. If you come, we'll talk.
See, then I blow it. I blow it for you. You won't be able to do your 5-year thing. That's what we'll be talking.
How about you? What does this year look like for you?
Oh man, I have no idea. I'm doing the NAMM show, and after that,
that's is that next week?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm resurrecting the Art Blakey project, the Jazz Messenger project.
Oh wow! Tell me about that.
Well, it's just doing the music of the Jazz Messengers.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they had a lot of great songwriters.
Okay.
And it's just a collage of all the music of every version of the Jazz Messengers.
Wow. Okay. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, we've done one concert here in town, year before last. And, I kind of got in this thing where, I love Art Blakey, but, I didn't particularly want to play like Art Blakey.
Okay.
There are other drummers that I aspire to, play, think like and pursue that and try to find myself in that pursuit.
Yeah.
And I guess Art kind of fit that bill because, once I got into it, I realized that how he played, what made it happen, and I was going, it's great. Yeah. But, I got this other thing I want to do,
Yeah.
But, I've had time to think about it, and people ask me about it. So I think there's another way to approach it. I don't have to sound like Art Blakey.
Yeah.
I just have to make the music feel as good as he did.
Yeah, man. I love that.
In my own way.
Yeah.
So, if that makes sense. And I don't have any, I maybe should sit down and plan the next 5 years of my life.
I don't know that if you figure that out, let me know, because I can dream about 5 years. As far as planning it, I can throw some stuff on paper, and I think it helps. I think especially because I don't know, we tend to in creative pursuits, which don't always they don't always fit neatly in a box, right? And so to have some kind of accountability or written goal, and I mean the beautiful thing about it is it can change, so it can be fluid and it can move and it can change.
Only takes one phone call.
But to have something you can come back to say, you know what, I do still want to do that thing, and kind of to remind yourself of that. For me, it's been a really helpful discipline. So, anyways,
that's good.
Next week, man. Next week, I guess you'll be at NAM.
I'll be at NAM next week. Yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'll get a chance to spend more time with my grandsons at night.
Oh wow.
Yeah, see some friends I haven't seen in a long time. I don't know how I'm going to squeeze it all in, but I'm going to make every attempt to see as many people as I can and spend as much time with the kids as I can.
Yeah.
It's going to be tricky.
Oh, that'll be great.
But I'll be working. You know, doors open at 10 and they close at 6.
Okay, and so tell me about this. So you are there.
I'm there. I'm probably going to do at least 4 half-hour sessions a day.
And that
Thursday through Sunday.
You're playing for half an hour.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's another drummer there who will play. You know, we take turns. So I think they have it booked out. There's an hour of making noise.
Okay.
Because they have this noise thing at NAM now.
Okay.
And every exhibitor has to sign off on this thing to keep the decibels down.
Oh, wow.
So
unless you're a drummer?
No.
Okay.
Especially if you're a drummer.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, you know, it'll be good. It'll be kind of easy because it's electronic drums. If I want it louder, I just turn up the volume, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to swing harder. You know, I don't have to perspire, you know.
Except, okay, so 30 minutes of solo drumming. Like, what's worse, that or arm day at the gym?
Arm day at the gym.
Okay, but you're doing 4 30-minute sessions a day. That's 2 hours.
Well, cool.
Okay, man, you are a beast.
But,
right.
But you know, it's not that. Well, it can be difficult. It can be challenging, and the challenge is not playing the same thing.
Yeah.
Every time you get up there, but the NAMM show is so big. There are going to be so many people passing by that I could get away with playing the same thing all the time, and
but you're not that guy.
First time for those people. But I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I'd get bored. They wouldn't know the difference, but I would get so bored, you know.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, that sounds awesome.
I am looking forward to it.
Yeah. Do you write a lot of music? Do you write much music?
No, that's why I have this book here.
Okay.
You know, when I started doing the Jazz Messenger thing, and we started practicing and performing. You know, I was listening to the way the guys were soloing.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me that they were just playing good solos, but they weren't in the mode or something, tonality or that tonal mode that the original guys on the records were in.
Yeah.
That was a thing missing. You know, there was a connection. It was like they were soloing outside the box or something.
Yeah. And
so I have a friend, my friend Dan Newsom, and I are going through this book together. Dan used to teach at Berklee.
Okay. And that's a jazz harmony book, which this is going to sound so stereotypical, but I'm impressed that drummers going through a jazz harmony book. Obviously you know harmony, but
I love harmony.
But it's, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, when I went to Berklee, I was really good at it.
Yeah.
You know, arranging. I love to arrange.
Yeah.
Counterpoint. I was fascinated by counterpoint. I still am.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that.
I can make these passing tones and stuff like come together and then split up and
So tell me, how does harmony? This is dumb because music is so interwoven, but tell me about harmony. Like, so you're studying jazz harmony. How does that make you approach something differently as a drummer?
awareness of the tonality.
Okay.
Of the piece, why it's working, what things in the music should be accentuated by the drums or something, and kind of follow that path, to embellish whatever harmonic thing is going on there.
It's awesome.
You learn that stuff too you can learn that stuff too by playing with a lot of people, doing a lot of gigs.
Yeah.
Just instinctively knowing that. And a lot of people do. That's how they come to know it. But, after sitting in a classroom and having an aha moment, it's like, wow. There's a method to this madness,
Absolutely.
They're just not winging it.
Yeah.
They're coming from something.
Yeah.
They know.
How much jazz do you play? Do you play a lot of jazz still?
I play jazz every day in here.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's my thing I'm going to be doing from now on. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm trying to become a legitimate jazz drummer.
Okay.
And it's not easy. But anyway, enough about me.
No, I love the exchange and kind of interchange of all this. It's great. I love it.
That's what I want to do. That's what I want to be.
So, but as far as writing music, so one of the things I'm looking at in 2020 is I want to do a little more writing and arranging, which sometimes I just have a hard time making the time for it, if that makes sense. And I have to be disciplined and block some time, just like anything else, like going to the gym or whatever it is. So that I actually get it done.
I'm telling you, I have been going to the gym, and yesterday I got T25 as a gift.
Okay. What is T25?
Sean T, you ever heard of him?
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm embarrassed I had to ask now.
His 25-minute workout.
Okay.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And it's more intense than anything I do at the gym.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, so I think I'm going to cancel my gym membership and just do T25 here at home.
Oh, man. All right.
I don't have to drive anywhere, and all the errands you run on the way back home, and you get home, it's like 3 o'clock.
And then you're done in 25 minutes. That's great. You got
25
more time
minutes
to study jazz harmony.
That's
perfect.
Right. That's right.
I love it.
So I'm on it, and that's part of my 5-year plan. Already.
So do you do so? So I'm a piano player. If I'm gonna sit down and arrange or compose something, it's at the piano, and it could be a rhythmic figure, or it could be just a cool chord, or a melody, or any number of things. How do you approach that if your first instrument? Well, is your first instrument percussion or drums?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
My only
so
instrument.
How do you approach that? Does it start with a groove, or does it start with harmony, or what does that look like for you?
I don't know.
Okay.
Sometimes I get melodies, and I sing them into my phone.
Okay.
They're all there waiting for me to come back to.
That's okay. There you go. All right.
Is that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's an adventure. We'll see. Hopefully I can answer that question a year from now, because this is a whole nother thing, and it kind of interferes with that, with drumming, and sometimes it's hard to get to the piano because I'll get an idea on the drums that I want to pursue for the rest of the day.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It takes discipline to go, okay, I got to get over there.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's go. That's why I have 2 other friends doing it too.
Yeah.
Some accountability.
That's great.
Yeah.
So drums, piano, what else do you play?
Nothing.
Drums and piano.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even play piano yet.
There's a piano sitting in here.
I can figure it. I'm just figuring it out.
Okay.
And it's been great, seeing these chords written out and hearing the explanation, and then hearing what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that's that.
That's
cool.
great.
That's great. Well, hey man, we've been yapping for a time now, and it's been great fun.
It has been.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Coffee's been good.
You're an Eagle Scout, and Dude Ranch guy, and Army chaplain music for every denomination in the world kind of guy.
It makes me an oddball, but There's something about just following the opportunities and trusting that an open door leads to another open door.
Yeah.
And I think that's been a huge part of my story is saying yes to things. And being open to whatever comes. So
yeah, it's good to be a yes guy.
Within reason. I mean, it's good.
Within reason. Yeah. Some people are no people, and sometimes no is not the first answer you should get. There's a better answer than no at first, unless you know it's just like terrible and you've done it before.
Are you a no guy or a yes guy? You strike me as I don't know. How would you answer that?
Let me think about that guy.
You're a smart guy. You're a smart guy. There you go.
Let me think about that. Yeah. Toss it around, sleep on it, dream about it. I'll get back to you tomorrow, kind of thing. Well, I want to thank you for coming over, Tim, and I'm glad we finally got to do this.
Yeah, thank you.
Sit down
this has been fun.
Yeah, we've been missing you out at Christ Press. It's all good.
I miss you guys too, but I hear things are going well.
Things are going well.
Yeah.
We were in the movie theater. We were in the movie theater this Sunday.
How was that?
About 5 minutes into Russ's sermon, Star Wars starts next door.
Did it really? That's amazing.
And it shakes the whole other theater that we're in. It's like boom, boom. So all during Russ's sermon, there are explosions going on.
Wow.
It's quite different.
We call that the spirit moving. I think that's what that is. No, that is hilarious.
But,
have you seen the new Star Wars movie?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Well,
have you?
I have.
Okay.
I won't say anything, but you should see it.
No, don't say anything.
I'm not even a big Star Wars guy, but you should see it.
All right. I will. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming by, and I hope we can hang out. And when not Prince's, but Pepperfire opens up over in Marathon Village, so we got to go christen it. Well, make it our own.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hot chicken soon. Next time I come back, we should do some jazz harmony.
We should do some, because you just got the book, right?
Yeah, well,
you're
it's
ordering
on its way.
the book.
It's on its way. Thanks, Amazon.
All right. And when I have any sort of fingering questions on the keyboards here, I'll be sure to call you.
Great.
And tell you what page to turn to.
Great. Well, thank you. This has been
à
fun.
la page. No. Anyway, thank you, folks, for listening. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Stay tuned for new interviews coming out this year.